Hello everyone! We finally arrived at the last tutorial of this series where we're making this HyperX microphone, and finally in this tutorial I'm gonna show you how to apply materials and texture to a model, okay? And before we start, don't forget to give a like in the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel as well, okay? If this series doesn't have 1,000 views at least, I don't think I'm gonna make another Blender tutorial ever again because it's so hard to make it, to record, and then I have to edit. And before I model one piece with our microphone with you, I have to test many times. Like, for example, this piece here, I think I tried at least 5 times to achieve a good result and to use a method that it's easy to explain and that you can understand. Okay, and this happened with every single piece here of this microphone. So it was a lot of work. So please give a like in the video, okay, to make YouTube show this video to more people. So let's get started. And in this tutorial, I'm gonna show you a different window. Okay, we have been working with this layout window here, I think for the entire series, right? And today I'm gonna show you this shading window here. And in this shading tab, we're gonna focus on this window here. That's the window we're gonna use to make our materials, okay? We want to use these windows here, so you can drag to the side. You can also remove them by clicking right click here in the middle between these two windows. You can right click and you can press join areas. So when you press the join area, you can join this window, the right window, to the left window, or the left window to the right window. See, you can see the difference in the little arrow there. So we want to extend the right window over the left window. So we click on this side. So that window disappeared. So we have a better view here. Okay, so now let's take a look at the reference image. And you can see that basically the microphone has one material, that is this black plastic material, and the rope has a different one, and also the top of the microphone. So let's get started by making the most basic one, that is the one from the base. Okay, because in the base we won't use any texture. It doesn't have any logo or anything we need to add to our mesh. So select your base. Let's go to the shading tab, and here we can create a new material by pressing here in the new button. Okay, or we can also create a material coming to this tab here and clicking in this new button. Both buttons do the same thing. So let's click here. See, you can see that it generated the material here as well. It's the same material. Okay, it has the same name, so we can rename it here or here. Let's rename it black plastic material. And to be able to see your material, you have to choose one of these two viewport shading here, or this one that is the material preview, or this one that is the rendered one. It's gonna be the image we're gonna render. It's gonna be exactly like what you see in this window here. Okay, right now it's dark like this because we don't have any light source in our scene. To have a better view of our final render, we need to add some lights here. So let's do that. So let me go back to this layout tab, and remember we have that collection, cameras and lights. Let's activate it again in this viewport. Now you can see the microphone, it's all white. If we hide the light, you can see that the microphone becomes all like has no color. And you can still see the microphone here because of the world light. So if you come here to the world tab, you can see there is this color option, And here is the color of the environment. So right now it's a gray color. If we change this to, let's increase the brightness here to the value to 1. So you can see we have this white light. But right now we won't use this world light. So let's go back here. We can drag the value to 0. So it becomes all black. Or we can leave it like this and decrease the strength value. So now we have like 0 light source. So let's bring back our little point light here. Let me get rid of those reference images. Okay, we have only the single light source here that came by default, remember? The first tutorial. So I'm gonna add 2 more lights so we can have a better view of the microphone. Right now we can only see the right side. The left side is completely dark. So I'm gonna add 1 light here in this menu. Let's choose an area light. Okay, let's drag it up, GZ. I'm gonna move to the side, okay, GX. I'm gonna rotate towards our microphone like this. And now we need to increase the strength of this light, the power of this light. So select the light, come to this menu here, where you can see this little lamp. And here in the power, we can increase it to 500 watts, maybe. Maybe it's too intense, to 50, 100. Okay. And now let's duplicate this light. Let me bring the light to this collection. And now from the top view here, I'm gonna duplicate, Shift T. I'm gonna bring here to the front, to the front of our microphone. And let's rotate in this direction here. Okay. So now we can see our microphone better. We can even maybe rotate it like this and bring it down. Okay, let's keep it like this for a while, because now we can see our materials applied to our microphone. So let's go back to the shading, okay? Select your base. And here we have the material created before, the black plastic. And right now it is white. And here in the base color, we can change the color of our material. For example, we can make it blue, we can make it green, but we want to make it black. So let's drag the value here down to 0. Okay, it's gonna be black. And this little box here, where we can change the settings of our material, it's called node. Okay, so all these little boxes here we're gonna use, they're called nodes. We can also change the settings in the material tab here. No, they have the same properties as this principal BSDF here until here. There are so many options here we can use. We have the metallic, we have the specular, roughness, all these other ones here that I rarely use. There are some settings for when we're working with glasses and translucent materials. But right now we are interested only in the color and the metallic and the roughness. As its name says, metallic turns one material into a metal. So when we drag the metallic to 1, for example, the material turns into metal. Okay? Because the material is black, we can see it very well. But if we change the color to, for example, blue, and if you decrease the roughness, you're gonna see it get very metallic. It's dark like this because we only have that light source. But if you go to this viewport here, you can see it better, the metallic effect. Let's decrease the roughness. See? It reflects the entire environment. And if I decrease the metallic, and if I drag the metallic and the roughness to 0, the material looks like plastic. So if you want a very shiny plastic material, you're gonna turn down the roughness, okay? But in our case, I think that a roughness of 0.35 is a good number, and the metallic is gonna be 0, okay? Oh, I just remember that I forgot to activate the screencast, okay, to show what I'm doing here with my mouse and with the keyboard. So let's go back to shading. Let's change the color to black again. And our material is basically done. This one is very simple, but what I like to do when I make this kind of material, instead of leaving it like this very perfect, flat, like without any bump, without any imperfection, instead of leaving it like this, I like to make it more realistic. So I'm gonna add some noise to our plastic, okay? And you're gonna see that the result gets more realistic. Because if we zoom in here in our microphone, our base, you can see it's perfectly even and flat. It's like too perfect. So let's add here another node. You can come to this menu here, add, and search for texture and noise texture, this one. There are multiple textures you can use. You can play with those textures, but right now we are interested in this noisy one, okay? Another way to find one node is coming here to add and press and search. Then you can type the node we want, noise texture, okay? Or you can press Shift A and this menu gonna appear. So let's search for the noise texture. And right now I want you to install another add-on, another extension. It's gonna be here in Edit, Preferences. We're gonna add one extension called Node Wrangler. So search here for Node Wrangler. This extension here. It comes by default here in Blender. So you can just click here to activate it and save. In my case here, I have autosave selected. But if you don't have the autosave selected, you can press Save Preferences. And then you can close here. And with this Node Wrangler extension, we're gonna have some useful shortcuts that are gonna help us to apply our material to the microphone. For example, we can press Ctrl Shift and left click. So you can see here that the node where we press the Ctrl Shift right click is directly connected to our output. So you can see the effect of this node in our material. This is how the noise texture looks like. We can change some settings of this noise texture. For example, we can change the scale. You see the texture gets smaller and smaller. Okay. And we can change the detail level, gets more smooth, less smooth. You can change this roughness, but let's leave it as 0.5. You can also change the distortion. Okay, let me increase the scale again so I can see better the effect of the distortion. Let's see here. We can basically create all type of materials using these nodes here. Okay, let's bring back the distortion to 0. Let's increase the scale to 700 because I want it very small. Okay, it's gonna be little tiny details here. That's gonna make our plastic looks more realistic. So now let's connect the noise texture to our base color again and the principal BSDF back to the output. Okay, but as you can see, our material is not black anymore. So how can we fix this? After the noise texture, we're gonna add another node called color ramp. So you can come here to add and search for color ramp. And with this color ramp, what's gonna happen is that based on the input here of the noise texture, the darker areas, okay, gonna turn into this color here. Right now it's black, but if I change it to, for example, green, the darker area is gonna turn into green. Okay, the same thing with the lighter areas. If I change this color to blue, for example, the lighter areas becomes blue. So what I want is that our microphone, we want it to have a black color. So select here this arrow. Let's choose the black color. And this other arrow here, let's choose dark gray, almost black. And let's bring our saturation to 0. Okay, so it gets this gray color here. So that's the result now. As you can see, our material has these little imperfections here. Okay, like micro little bumps. And if you want to increase the contrast between the lighter and the dark areas, we can drag those points here. See what happens. You increase the contrast, but I don't want this contrast to be so high like this. So bring back around here. Let me fix this gray color. I used in my example, the one from the beginning of the tutorial, the color 3F, 3F, 3F. This gray here. Okay. So that's how our material looks like. Let's see how it looks in the render view. That's how it's going to be rendered. Okay. Looks good, but to make it even better, I'm gonna show you another node. It's gonna be the bump node that we're gonna connect to the normal input to our BSDF node. So Shift A, search for bump, and we're gonna connect the output of the color ramp to the height of the bump. Okay, and the output of the bump we're gonna connect to the normals. If you don't know what normal is when we work with textures, it is basically used to simulate height in our mesh. For example, here you can see now we have the impression that those little bumps are actually three-dimensional. Instead of being just a flat texture, it's a three-dimensional little bumps. You can see here in this other view how it looks like. Look at this. It looks three-dimensional, right? This texture is because of the normals. But the strength is too much. I want it to be very subtle. So let's put 0.05. Okay. It's very subtle. So we can only see it if we zoom in very close to our mesh. So from here, we can't see it very well, those little tiny bumps here. Okay, so only if you get really, really close. But I think this is perfectly fine. Okay, it reminds me the material of the microphone. And there's another node that I want to show you that we're gonna add here by using the Node Wrangler add-on. I'm gonna click on the noise texture and press Ctrl T. Okay, so it automatically gonna add the texture coordinate node and the mapping node. I'm gonna show you later how can you use this mapping node, but now we're gonna change the texture coordinate here from generated to object. Okay, let me see if I can show you the difference between these two options. But if I change it back to generated, The difference is very subtle, but there is like a stretch here on the sides. So I prefer to use the object option because it looks more uniform, you know? So right now, in this situation, I'm gonna use the object output here because in this base, we won't need to UV unwrap it, you know, to apply any texture. So the object option is fine. Okay. So we finish our first material. We add black material to our base. And we're gonna apply the same material to other parts of our microphone as well. So this part here gonna have the same material. So you can click, you can select this mesh, and you can come here. Okay, instead of clicking on new, you're gonna click on this little arrow here and select the material that we've already made, the black plastic. Okay, so they're gonna share the same materials. Okay, if I change anything here, this change is gonna happen in both meshes. Okay, for example, if I change the roughness, see the change happens in both meshes. So 0.35 is. What else has the same material? This screw here, this cylinder, the rings, those little cylinders here. What else? Let's see. Our reference images. Okay, the microphone also has the same material. However, we're gonna need a different setup here in the shading because we need to apply this texture here, the logo, the HyperX logo, both in the microphone and in this part here, the bottom part. Okay, and in this top part here, the material is different. You see, I think it's like more like a rubber, but the roughness is greater than the roughness of the rest. So let's select this top part. Let's go back to shading. And let's create a new material. Let's name it top material. And this one's gonna be black. Oops. Black. And the roughness is gonna be around 0.65. However, there's a detail here. Okay. The top part has one icon. This icon here of a microphone. Okay, so we're gonna have to use a texture here. We're gonna have to apply one texture, and that's what I'm gonna show you right now. Okay, let's add a texture to our mesh. Let's press Shift A and search for image texture. Image texture. And here you can press open and search for your texture. Or you can just go to your folder and drag the image to your Blender. Okay, so this image is a PNG image, this one here. Okay, it has no background. However, we're gonna use it as if it had a black background. Okay, so when you don't use this alpha channel here, the transparent background from the PNG image is gonna work as if it was black. So it's the same thing as if that image had a black background. So let's connect the color to the base color input. Okay, and right now we can see the microphone icon here in our mesh. This is because we need to UV unwrap this mesh. Okay, So now I'm going to explain to you about UV unwrapping. Okay, so what UV unwrap is. Okay, I like to show this image to explain what UV unwrap actually is. Well, this image here of a box being unwrapped, being unfolded, because to apply a texture to a 3D object, this 3D object needs to be flat. You need to cut it and open its parts, okay, on a surface to make it flat. Like you see here in the image, you have one 3D box, okay? You cut the sides here and open it in a flat surface like this. And then we can apply a texture, an image on top of that 3D object, okay? There are other examples here. This is a face UV unwrapped, okay? It has a cut here in the back, and then you open it, and you place it on a surface to make it flat, and then you can apply textures. Here you have this entire body unwrapped, okay? So let's go back to our Blender, select the top mesh, and let's go to this other window here, this other tab, the UV editing tab. Okay, in this tab, we're gonna UV unwrap the top part of our microphone. Okay, right now, if we select our mesh, we're gonna see here in this window that nothing appeared. Okay, only the image we use as texture because it recognizes it has that image attached to this mesh. But we can change all images that we work here in our file. Okay, here there are reference images. And right now we only have this one, the icon. And you can see here that we have nothing in this window. It's because we didn't UV unwrap this mesh. And to do this, the unwrapping, you can press U and this menu here will pop up. And there are some options here of unwrapping. Okay, they have a Smart UV project that automatically unwrap for us. So let's click in here so you can see what happens. So it basically adds some cut here in the circle and on the sides and make it flat like this. So if you go to our shading tab, you can see that there's something different here right now. Okay, this is parts of our icon. So for example, this top part here, this one here, it's this portion here of our icon. Can you see that? This portion here. For example, if I move this to the middle and press S to scale, and scale like this, if you go back to the shading, you're gonna see the microphone here. Can you see how it works? This is the top part of the microphone and the texture gonna be applied to it. Okay, and you can also see that the side parts are also on top of the icon. That's why you can see that the sides have some parts of the icon as well. So what you have to do is to remove the icon from the sides, okay, and place it only at the top of our mesh. So to do this, I could press L here to select those vertices, press S to scale, move it outside the microphone icon, this area as well, press S to scale, move out of the microphone, and this part here is already out. If I come back now to the shading tab, you can see that on the sides we don't have the microphone anymore. Okay, but you can still see something weird happening here at the top. By default, the option of repeating the texture is selected. So if I keep increasing this circle like this, oops, only this one. If I keep increasing the circle like this, you're gonna see the microphone repeated multiple times. Okay, it's like this image is repeated one beside each other here. So our mesh is gonna get this effect of repeated images. So to fix this, I can change this repeat option to clip. And now we're gonna have only one image, okay, without repetition. So that's basically it. We can just try to resize it to make it look more like the one here. It's very small, so I can make it smaller. And let's make the editing here. So to make this UV unwrap, I use that option, the Smart UV project option. But I'd like to show you how we can manually do this. How we can manually add seams and unwrap our mesh. In this case, I'm interested only in this top part. So the sides here, it doesn't matter how it's gonna look in the UV projection, because we are only going to apply texture at the top. Okay, so if you had textures here on the sides, we would care about the unwrapping here on the side as well. So because we only care about the top, let's add one seam in this edge here. This one. Press U and mark seam. And you can see now that this red line is around this edge. And if I select everything again, press A and press U and select unwrap, now it's gonna cut only in that region where we have the seam. Let's see how it looks like. So this portion here is all the sides, the side regions. And this one here is the top part. Okay. So if you go back to the shade, you're gonna see that we messed up everything again. This is because they are not in the right position. So what I wanna do is select this, press S to scale down, place it in some area here on the side, maybe here. And this area there is important for us. I'm gonna select, let's position it here in the middle, and let's scale it up like this. Okay, let's scale it up a little more. Okay, and you're gonna have also to spin it, because the microphone it's in the vertical position, like following the Y direction. So you can go back to UV editing, press R, and 90 degrees. Let's see if it works. Actually, it's upside down now. Let's rotate one more time. R, 180 degrees. Okay, exactly like this. Let me just increase a little more the size of this. Okay. Okay, I think it's okay now. And you can see that it's not completely white, it's a little gray. So how can we change this color? We can apply again that color ramp node. So let's add the color ramp here, Shift A. Another way to add one node is just drag one line here and release it. And you can see, you can search for a node here. So color ramp. And let's connect the output of the color ramp to the base color. And here you can adjust the color of this icon. So let's click on this white arrow. And let's make it light gray, like this. Okay, so it's exactly like the one in the reference image. Okay, now let's move on to another part of our microphone. Okay, let's make the button. This one here. So its material is gonna be the same as the other parts, but with this little texture here, this little line. Okay, so to do this, let's select the black plastic material. So because this button has that little detail, we're gonna use this material as base because it's gonna be the same thing. But we don't want that the changes we're gonna make here affect the other pieces of our microphone. So we're gonna duplicate this material, pressing here, new material. Okay, and you can see here that the name changed. Now it's black plastic is 0.001. Okay, so we can rename black plastic button. Oops, like this. And now this material gonna affect only this button here. So to edit that line, let's drag the image, this image here, the volume button image. Let's bring back to Blender. And now we're gonna have to mix the two materials, the two parts of the material. This one that's already done with the noise and everything, with the image texture of the white line. Okay, that's white line here. But before we mix them, we're gonna have to UV unwrap our button. So come to UV editing tab and let's make the seam around this edge. So select it, press U and mark seam. Okay, now select everything, press U and U again to UV unwrap it. All this region here, we don't care about it. We just need to move it away from the icon here, from this image. While this portion, we need to bring it to the center and scale up like this. Let's see here in the shading. Oh, we can't forget to connect here, otherwise we can't see. And also, let's select this node, press Ctrl T, and by default it's already connected to the UV output here. It is important that this UV output connects to this input here, because this image texture is going to be applied on top of our UV map here. Okay, so oops, let's select everything again to make it exactly like the reference image. Let me bring the reference image here. We're gonna have to rotate this circle. So let's rotate, press R to rotate around here, right? Let's scale up a little more. Okay. And you can see that the noise texture is being applied only in this white part here. It's because we didn't mix it yet. So let's go back to the shading. And you're gonna have to mix these two outputs here. So Shift A, search for mix node. This one here, the mix. And you're gonna choose, instead of float, you're gonna choose color. Let's connect the first color on the A input and the second one on the B input. Okay, the factor is gonna be half and half, so 0.5 is okay. And let's now connect to the base color. Okay, and now you can see that both textures are applied. Okay, the noise texture and the texture with the line. So I think we're done with this one as well. So let's move on to the next part of our microphone. Let's go to the bottom part, this one here. So this one has a texture in the front side. Here we have this texture here with just 5 little dots. So we're gonna use the same strategy we used to make this button. Okay, I'm gonna hide the reference images. Let's go to the UV editing, and this time we care about the sides. We don't care about the bottom part, but the sides needs to be well UV unwrapped. So we're gonna have to make one seam here. So let's make one seam here on the side. And another seam here in the bottom. Press U, mark seam, select everything, press U and unwrap. Okay, it seems that the seam didn't go all the way up here. So let's hide the microphone, this grid. Let's go to edit mode. Okay, I forgot to have this top part here in the mesh. So we have to make a seam here as well. Select this edge, press U, mark seam. And now I think we're okay. Press A, U, and U again. Okay, it's unwrapped. Now let's go to the shading. And let's do the same thing. Let's add the black plastic material. Actually, let's add the black plastic button material. And without making any change, let's duplicate the material. Okay. New material, and let's name it bottom. Black plastic bottom. And the difference here is the image we're gonna use as a texture. So let's drag the image. It's this one here, volume level. Let's bring to Blender. Okay, now we replace this texture. For this one. And now we're gonna have to position those dots in the right place. So let's go back to the UV editing tab. Let's try to move it to the right position. Let me check again here in the reference image where those dots are. So they are in the opposite side of this button, right? So it should be here in the front side. So, okay. Let's move these circles out of the way. Select pressing L, scale it down, move it here. And now we're gonna have to position these dots here on those faces. So rotate it like this, scale up around here. But we have a problem here. Because these edges are curved, our dots aren't going to be straight here. So we're gonna have to make those edges straight. There is one extension that do this for us. It's called UV squares. Don't remember if this extension comes by default in Blender. It's UV square extension. I don't think it comes by default. So if you don't have this UV square, you can search online, or we can manually make them straight here. So let's do that. Let's select edge by edge, and let's press S, Y, 0. Make them straight. So select the second edge, S, Y, 0. The third edge, S, Y, 0. This edge here. Remember to hold Alt to select the entire edge, okay? So S, Y, 0. And let's do that with all edges. So I'm gonna speed up the video while I'm doing this. Okay, let's see now if it works. Let's select all faces, drag it down. Around here, scale it up. And let's remember to change the repeat option to clip. Okay, So let's go back to UV editing. Let's move here to the side. And as you can see, they're not straight because these edges, those vertical edges, are not straight. So we're gonna have to do the same thing. Gonna have to select edge by edge. So select one edge, press S, and now it's gonna be in the X direction. So press X and 0. And there is one shortcut we can use to repeat the last action you made. So let's press enter. Now select the second edge and press Shift R. Okay, so you can do this. Select the next edge, press Shift R, select the next one, Shift R. And if for some reason you made a different action, click it in another place, you won't be able to use this shortcut, Shift R anymore. In this case, I was still able to do it. But sometimes, if you make a different action by mistake, you can just repeat again, press S, X, and 0, okay, to make them straight. So let's keep doing this. Okay, we don't need to make all the edges, only the ones where we're gonna apply our texture. So let's scale it up a little more. Let's move here. Front view. Where's the reference image? So you can see that our dots are inverted. The bigger one is on the right side. So we're gonna have to invert those faces. To do this, let's right click. Okay, select first, pressing L, right click, and choose mirror in the X direction, I think. Now I'm gonna have to drag to this side here. Yeah, it's working. GX, front view. Yes, I think we're good here. Let me bring back the microphone. I think they're a little smaller, right? And a little up. So let's make it even bigger here. Move a little up around here. Okay, we're done. Doesn't need to be right in the middle here because this button in the microphone, we can spin it so it goes around. And that's one more piece completed. Let's go back here to the shading. Yeah, that's one more piece. And now let's go to this main part here of the microphone. We're gonna use the same strategy, okay? So let's get the black plastic button. Let's duplicate this material. And let's name it black plastic microphone. Okay, and here it's gonna be a little more complicated because we have two textures. We have this HyperX logo here, down here, and we have the volume, not volume, the options. Where is it? Here. We have these options here. Okay, so let's make it. Let's bring both textures from our files. So let's drag these two images, the HyperX logo and the microphone options. Okay, so we have the two textures here. Let's apply first the logo. So let's replace this image right here. Let me hide the reference images. And let's try to bring the logo here to this area of the microphone. So let's go to the UV editing tab. Let's select everything. Before we have to make a seam, right? So let's make a seam here on the side. Let's hide this top part here. Okay, let's select this edge loop here, the last one. And let's select the side, the entire side here. So we can go around these hexagons. Oops. Let me undo, I did something wrong here. Okay, let's go around these hexagons. And let's go all the way down. Okay, so the side is all selected. Press U, mark seam. Now select everything. Press U and U again. And we unwrapped it. Okay, this circular part is already outside the logo. We can see that it is upside down, so select everything. Press R 180. Let's get it up. And move it around here. Now let's go to the shading tab. And let's change the repeat to clip. Okay. Select everything. Okay, select everything again. GX. Okay. It's around here. Just need to make the right size now. Keep scaling it up. Let's move it until around here. Let's compare with the reference image. Yeah, I think it's about right. So let me get closer here. Yeah, this little arrow, it's at the very bottom. So let me move it up. GY. Right here. Okay. So we are done with the logo. Then we can go to the second texture. That is this texture with the microphone options here. So to be able to add another texture, we're gonna need another UV map. So we already have this UV here that we made. And we're gonna need the second one to add the other texture. And to create another UV, we can come here to this tab, go to UV maps, and click in this plus button. Okay, so you can rename the UV map. You can choose here UV map, microphone, options, And here we can name it microphone logo. Double click, UV map, microphone logo. Okay, and then in the shading tab, and in the second texture here, instead of using the texture coordinate node, let's add the UV map node, this one here, UV map node. And here we can directly choose the UV we want. So I want the UV with the microphone options. So let's connect here. We won't need the mapping node. And here you can use the mix node again. And connect the result of this first mix node on the B input of the second mix node. And let's connect the result, the base color. Now let's go to the UV editing. Yeah, don't forget to change, repeat to clip. And now let's select the second UV, okay? Select this one. And I'm gonna move these icons to the right position, that is at the top of the circle. So let's select our mesh and move it to here. Right? Let's get it up more. Oops. Yeah, it's in the right position. Maybe let's move a little more down. Let's get it up a little more. Okay, we're done. So we have the two textures that we applied using two different UV maps in the same mesh. So let's go back to the shading tab. And I think we are done. So what else is missing? Okay, there are some screws here without material. We can add the same plastic material, this one here, or we can create a new one, new material with a more metallic aspect. So let's create a new one. Let's call screw material. And this one, let's just change the metallic. Let's increase the metallic. And decrease the roughness a little bit. Okay. So it has a different texture to it. But also we're gonna have to apply the same thing in these other screws here. But these other screws are part of our mesh already, the ring mesh. So let's go to the edit mode. Okay, select the ring. Let's go to the edit mode. And the bottom one is still the mirrored image of the first one. So let's select only the screws here. At the top, pressing L. Oops. And then you can come here to this side, to the material properties tab, and click here in the plus button. And now we can add the second material. Let's add the screw material. And we're gonna assign only to these faces that are selected. So press assign. And now these screws have the same material. So what else is missing? This side here. We can apply the same material to this hexagon. To the border, we can add the black plastic material. And to this central part here, let's go to the edit mode and add the top material. Press assign. Okay. So what else is missing? So now I think it's only missing the rope and this sponge part here of the microphone. This part here in the middle. So let's do the rope last, and let's now make this sponge part here. So let me hide the microphone, here the grid. Okay, and this material, I'm gonna do the following. Let's create a new one. Let's add a Voronoi texture. Okay, Shift A. Let's add one Voronoi texture. Let's press Ctrl Shift left click so you can see how the Voronoi looks like. Let's increase the scale to 200. Let's keep the rest the default values. And here you can see these little dots that we're gonna make transparent. Okay, so it's gonna be like little holes. That's gonna give the aspect of a sponge. So now let's press Ctrl T. So you can change here from generated to object. And let's connect the output here, the distance, to a color ramp. Color ramp. And this time we're gonna connect the color ramp to the alpha. Okay, it's gonna be responsible for the alpha channel of our texture. And let's connect back our principal BSDF to the material output. Press Ctrl Shift left click. Okay, so that's our setup. And as you can see, we have nothing transparent here in our material. So that's because we need to go to the material properties tab. Okay, and let's go to the blend mode and change opaque to alpha hashed. And now we have these little transparent holes here, little holes. We can increase the amount and size of these holes by dragging this black point here, this black arrow to the right. Okay, you can see the number of holes increasing. Okay, see, if you want it very transparent, you can increase all the way up here, but we want it around, I think around here is fine, because we're gonna position our lights inside this sponge. Okay, that's why it needs to be transparent. Okay, I think around here is okay. We can also, to make it more visible, we can add the bump node here and connect it to the normals. Connect the distance to height, okay, to the height, and connect the normal output to the normal input, just to make it more visible here, more three-dimensional, and decrease the distance to 0.1. Okay, I think we're done. Let's bring back the microphone. And let's add the lights before bringing the materials to the rope. Let's add lights to our microphone. So what I did was to place 8 lights at the top and 8 lights at the bottom. So let's do that. I'm gonna create here one collection. Inside the cameras and lights, I create the top lights collection and another collection to the bottom lights. And now let's add those lights inside our sponge. Let me hide again the grid and also the top part. And now let's position the lights here. So let's add the first light. It's gonna be point lights. Okay, so light point. Let's drag it up, GZ. Let's go to the rendered viewport so you can have a better view of our light. Let me also hide these other lights here. Okay, and we're gonna have only the light we are working with. I'm gonna put in the top lights collection. I'm gonna change the color to this blue color here. And now let's position it around our microphone. It's gonna be around this height here. And from the top view, I'm gonna drag it around here. And now we're gonna add 7 more lights. So we can press Shift D to duplicate, and let's move it. Following this pattern here, Shift D, Shift D. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another one here, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so we have here 8 lights. And now let's do the same in the bottom. So let's add a new light here in this collection. Shift A, light, point light. I'm gonna name it bottom light. GZ, let's drag it around this height. Let's go to the top view again. GY. Let's change the color to this red color. Okay. And let's duplicate. Shift T. Position like we did with the top part. So Shift T until we have 8 lights. Okay. So now let's bring back our microphone. And we have the lights of the microphone. Let's also bring back the scene lights. So it is looking really fine, right? It's almost done, like 99% done. Let me increase the size of those lights. Press S to scale. Okay. I'm increasing the size of these lights because I think the reflection was too strong here. So when we increase the size, it's gonna spread the reflection. Okay, you can move it a little further. UI. Okay, it's looking perfect. Okay, now I think we are missing this little thing here, where we plug the USB. It's still without material, so let's hide the rest. At base, let's hide grid, the rings. Where is this part here? Oh, it's the arm. Okay, so we have this part here. Let's go to the shading tab, and in this one we're gonna use the same strategy as we did with this button here and this bottom part as well. So you can give the material from one of them, backpress button. Okay, but instead of using this texture, the volume button texture, we're gonna bring this texture here, this plug icons. So let's drag it to Blender, and let's replace this texture for this texture here. And now we need to UV unwrap to place it in the right position. So let me bring back here the reference image so you have an idea of its position here. There is the earphones and the USB symbol. So select your mesh. Let's go to UV editing. And now let's UV unwrap. In this case, I think we don't need any seam. Okay, let's just select everything and press unwrap. And now we can position the right place here. Okay, the earphones, it's placed here. Okay, so let's make a seam here. Let's mark one seam in this edge here. Let's go around this hole and another seam here. Let's remove the subdivision for a while so I can see better those edges. Okay. And let's make one seam here as well. Okay, now press U and mark seam. Now select everything, press U and unwrap. Now let's find which part is which here. So let's go to this tab here. And this portion here is the one we are interested. So rotate 90 degrees and drag it here. Scale it up. Yeah, around here, I think it's fine. Now this portion here, we are not interested in this one. Let's scale it down. Place it here. And this one, we're gonna have to rotate 90 degrees as well. So R90. Let's drag to the right place, scale it up. And I think now we're fine. It's more like here. Okay. Let's bring back our subdivision. And when we apply the subdivision, you can see that our icons are a little distorted. So we can fix this just by selecting first this piece. Here in this case, scale in the Y direction. Scale it down like this. And you can do the same in this other region here. Press S, Y, scale it down like this. Okay, in this earphone icon, there's a little distortion here at the top. So what can we make to fix this? Maybe let's add another loop cut here around here, and let's make it straight. So SZ0, let's slide it up a little, S0 to make it straight, and let's mark one seam here. So press U, mark seam. Let's select only this region. Oops. So when I press L, you can see that this little pop-up shows up, and you can choose the option seam. So it's gonna be limited by the seam. So you can select only this region here, pressing L, press U and unwrap. Okay, so now let's see if it works. Press L, rotate 90 degrees. Actually, minus 90. So let's rotate again, rotate 180 degrees. And let's scale in the Y direction. Scale it down like this. And now this other region here, you can select only this one. And let's remove it from here. Get it down. Bring it here. Okay, let's bring back the microphone. So as you can see, you need to bring this up a little more. So GZ. So you can bring only until here. Why? Yeah, because it's cropping when it arrives here. So let's add another loop cut and do the same thing we did above. Let's add, oops. Let's add an horizontal loop cut. Till around here. And now let's try to scale it down. No, we have to scale it up in the y direction. And G, Y. Okay, let's see how it looks now. Okay, maybe we need to make it a little smaller. So let's scale it up. GY. Let's scale this part up a little bit too. Okay, I think we're done. We can move the entire piece a little bit up. GZ. Okay. Now we're done. And I just realized I made a mistake. As you can see, I forgot to duplicate the material, and it also affects the button. So you're gonna have to duplicate this material. Let's name it black plastic USB material. Now select the button and let's bring back the texture we used in it. That is the, where is it? The volume button. This one here. Okay. And now we're done. That's just because I forgot to duplicate the material. Okay, now we can bring back everything. Base, the arms. And we're done. And to apply the material in the ropes, I used one add-on that I have here, the Blender kit. And I searched for rope material. And I used one of these materials. I think it was this one, aluminum rope. So I'm gonna also leave it in the description, the file to this material. And you're gonna add to our file like this. I'm gonna show you now how to add. So you're gonna have to append the file. Okay, so you have to come here to File and press Append. Press Append. You're gonna search for the file. I'm gonna leave the description. Okay, this one, aluminum rope.blend. And you're gonna search for the material and press Append. Oops, actually you're gonna have to enter in the material folder. And here you're gonna press Append. Okay, and when you press Append, the material gonna show up here. It's named aluminum rope here. So select your rope and choose the aluminum rope material. Then you have the material applied to your rope, but you're gonna have to make some adjustments. You're gonna have to adjust the size and maybe the rotation. Okay, so let's go to the shading tab, and here you can see all the nodes used to create this material. It comes with some textures. Okay, one texture for the base color, there's a texture for the metallic, a texture for the roughness, and one for the normals. And what we have to do now, it's let's select this first texture, press Ctrl T, and let's connect the output from the mapping node to all the other textures. So when we change the rotation scale here, gonna affect all the textures. Okay, let's connect to all of them. And before we continue with the adjustments, I forgot to convert our rope, that is a curve, okay, it's a Bezier curve, into a mesh. So before converting, don't forget to duplicate and send it to the backup folder, just in case we make some mistake. Okay, and this one, we're gonna now convert it to a mesh. So select it. Let's go to Object, Convert, and Mesh. So this curve gonna turn into a mesh. Because if you remember, if you go here to the edit mode, you can see that we don't have any mesh. We have these curves here with those anchor points. Okay. So let's go back here. Convert, mesh. Okay, now it is a mesh and it's not a curve anymore. You can see this little icon here changed. And if we go to the edit mode, you can see now we have a mesh with faces, edges, and vertices. Okay, and if you go to the UV editing and select everything, you're gonna see how its UV mapping looks like. So now let's go back to the shading and let's put the following values that I think looks good. It gives one look similar to the real rope here from a microphone. So here in the X rotation, let's put 62 degrees. In the X scale, let's put 45. See, you can see now the shape of the ropes here. In the Y direction, let's put 5. And in the Z direction, put 4. Okay. Let's see if everything looks okay. Yeah, everything looks fine. And to give the metallic aspect to this rope, I think it was better to disconnect the roofiness from here and decrease it to around 0.2. So let's see how it looks in the rendered mode. It looks good. And if you want to change the color of the rope, we can add that color ramp, right? You may have noticed that this color ramp is very useful. So let's add one here between the texture and the base color. So if you move the arrow, you can make it whiter. Or if you want it more like black, you can move this one. But I think if you move the white here, I think we have a better look. Okay, you can change this color to make it more yellowish. Like this, to make it more similar to with the reference image. But I think we're fine now. And I just realized another mistake here, that I forgot to clip these two edges here. Okay, so you can do this now. Let's go here to the layout mode and let's apply our mirror again. So let's delete all the bottom ropes. Select the X-ray mode, select the entire bottom, press X and vertices. And also let's go to the side view, press 3 with their X-ray mode selected. Let's delete this right half of the ropes. Press X, vertices, Okay, now I think this region here is connected. So let's apply the mirror again in the Y direction and in the Z direction. Select clipping, and I'm gonna have to connect these two sides. Let me hide here the rings. Okay, so select this edge, press G, Y. Okay, connected, and the same thing here on the other side. G, Y. Okay, now they're connected. Okay, that's all. Let's give it that last look to see and confirm if everything's fine. If there's nothing missing. Okay, I think. Let me go to the render view. You can notice that this HyperX logo, it's a little dark compared to the reference image. So let's go to the shading tab. Let's see what we can make to improve it. Okay, and what I did to improve it, I just replaced the second mix node for one add node. So search for a node called math. Okay, by default it comes with the add option, so leave it like that. And connect the first texture to this first input, the output of the first mix node to the second input, delete this second mix node, and connect this value to the base color and select clamp. So as you can see, it's a little whiter now. It's not as dark. And if you want to give it that metallic look, we can just drag the output of this value and connect to the metallic input here. Okay. So you're gonna add a little bit of metallic to this logo. And I think, guys, finally, we're done. I hope I haven't forgot about anything. That's our final model. After many hours of work, we finally have our microphone done. So now that we finally finished the model, you can do whatever you want with this model. You can change the textures, you can change the colors, you can make a better scene here, you can improve the lighting to render, okay? If you don't know where to render, you can change the settings of the render here in this tab, okay? Right now it's using Eevee because it's faster to load, but if you want, you can choose cycles. So I'm gonna save before changing to cycles because sometimes Blender crashes. Okay, so let's select cycles. Okay, it didn't crash. If you have a GPU, you can select the GPU here, so it's gonna load faster. Your scene gonna load faster. And here you can, in the render option, you can decrease the number of samples. Okay, so it's gonna render faster. So you can decrease it to maybe 200. It'll depend on your machine. If you have a better machine, more expensive one, you can increase this value. And if your machine can't render very well, very good, you can decrease this value. Okay, and what else you can change here? Oh, here you can change the size of the image you're gonna render. And the render is gonna be the result of your camera, of what your camera is looking at. So to see what your camera is looking at, press 0 in the numpad. And here, in this square, that's where your camera is looking. So if I render the image now, what I would see, it would be only this bottom part of the microphone, okay? And also, if you have a backup folder like I had, you have to disable this little camera icon here so that the backup doesn't show in your render, okay? If you don't see this icon, you can search for it here. Okay, so disable your backup. Everything that you don't want to be in your render, you're gonna unselect here. Okay, so just a test. I'm gonna press here to render image. Okay, as you can see, there is a screw here in the middle of our scene. So maybe this screw might be in this collection here that I didn't use. So let me hide it here. Let me render again. Yeah, it was probably there. So now I'm gonna show you how to fix the camera, okay? So press N to show this menu. Come here to view, select your camera, and click here in camera to view. Lock the camera to view. So when you change your view here in the viewport, the camera gonna move it as well. So let's place it around here. I'm gonna change the resolution to 1080 by 1080, like this. Is gonna be a square. Okay. Let's see now how it looks. Okay, it looks fine now. And you can add other things to your scene, okay? So let me uncheck this option. So when I move, I don't move my camera together. So as I told you, you can add, for example, a plane here in your scene. Shift A, add plane. Scale it up. Go to edit mode. Select this edge, extrude in the Z direction. Select this edge again, press Ctrl B to bevel. Scroll the mouse wheel up. Okay. Shade smooth. And you have this plane that's going to work as a background for your microphone. And guys, that's all. If you want an extra tutorial showing how to render the microphone, how to make an animation like I did in the beginning of the videos, so I can maybe later, if this series have a good amount of views, I can make this extra tutorial teaching you how to make this animation and how to render better, okay? So I hope you have enjoyed this journey, and don't forget to give a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment, okay? So guys, until next time, bye!